Hello. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since we last had a chat. It is a great honor for me to be back talking to you again after such a long time. Sorry for this long silence. Been going through a lot in my personal life, which I won't go into right now. So the title of this video, as you can see, it says South Africa sleepwalking into a failed state. Yes, that's a very heavy title, but that's what we're talking about today. So, where are we? So I'm obviously not, I'm not a prophet, I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell the future, I can't see the future, only God can see the future. So I'm not pretending in any way that I've been to the future and seen the future. Also, I must say that this is my intention in this video is not sensationalism, nor is it fear-mongering, and certainly not intending to be a doomsday preacher and doomsday predictor of some sort. It just seems to me that that South Africa becoming a failed state seems more likely to be a certain eventuality, unless something really drastic happens to change the trajectory of this country. I don't see any other outcome other than South Africa becoming a failed state. So my prediction is sadly based on all of the evidence that I have before me, put together, all of that working together collectively. South Africa being a failed state seems to be a rational conclusion of what's going to happen. So the energy crisis in South Africa is well documented. It has been thoroughly covered by South African media, have even been covered by international media, American media, European, Middle Eastern media. And I have not necessarily shared my full thoughts on the energy crisis in South Africa here with you, but for the purpose of this video, let's just say that the energy crisis is one of the key factors that would lead this country to becoming a failed state, but it's not the only factor. I would even say that the energy crisis would not be the cause, but it's just a symptom of a multitude of other problems in South Africa. Rampant and stubborn unemployment, which appears to not be going anywhere. Last I checked, it was around 40%, 45%. A lack of a coherent plan by those in power to do anything about unemployment rate, the failing economy that has not gone anywhere in the past 15 years, crumbling infrastructure, discernible levels and worrying levels of capital and brain drain, um, particularly brain drain and skills drain of skilled South Africans fleeing the country, going to Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. Canada seems to be very popular with South African skilled workers. The US, things also like a grossly incompetent state apparatus, and I think that the incompetence of the state in South Africa, for me, is of greater concern than corruption and maladministration, because incompetence, in my estimation, costs the nation a lot more than all of the corruption that we've seen. Poor choices in terms of political options makes the South African case a case of damned if you do and damned if you don't. And I must say that the main problem facing South Africa, in my view, over and above all these issues that I've listed above now, has to be that the population of South Africa, or South Africans, are blissfully fast asleep. And if they are not fast asleep, they are sleepwalking towards disaster. And I must say that this issue of being blissfully asleep and sleepwalking is not a South African phenomenon. It's a phenomenon that has been seen in many states that become failed states. It's a phenomenon that's been seen in many other instances where disaster has occurred in Europe, in the Americas, in Africa, in Asia, in many other instances, such that the state that I see in South Africa of just a malaise, and just sleepwalking nature, I'll call it that. It's very concerning for me. And what do I mean by that South Africans are blissfully asleep? I don't mean to say that South Africans are not concerned about the future of the country. No, of course not. I don't think they are not concerned, but I do think that the majority of South Africans are not properly exercising their minds with regards to the issues affecting the country. And what I find to be true is that the overwhelming majority of South Africans are having a superficial treatment of the issues facing the country. And since the treatment that they are having of the issues is superficial, they're not able to properly apply their minds to the issues. Let me repeat that, because I feel like it's important for me to repeat it, because it's the main point of why I'm saying they're blissfully asleep and that they are sleepwalking. I'm saying that the overwhelming majority of people in the country, in South Africa, have a superficial mental treatment of the issues that face the South Africans and South Africa. And since they are having a superficial treatment of these issues, they are not able to properly apply their minds to these issues. And this assertion that I've just made here will probably result in the automatic protestations of certain segments of the population, and some will argue that my assertions are arrogant, ignorant, wrong, etc., so on and so forth. And I'll give examples of why I say the South Africans are not properly applying their minds to the crisis at hand. Take, for instance, the success of the EFF, the economic, freedom fighters. Their success is a sure sign that South Africans are not properly applying their minds to the matters at hand. Why? Why would I say that? If South Africans were properly exercising their minds with regards to the issues at hand, they would look at the seriousness of the problems, and having looked at them and having properly understood them, they would not possibly turn to the EFF for solutions. It's not possible. And the reason being that the EFF has not presented any tangible and coherent policy proposals with regards to what's facing the country. They have no clear and discernible policy that any thoughtful voter can look at and say, yes, this is what I agree with, or this is what I disagree with. There is nothing there. There's no coherent, there's no discernible policy. There's nothing in terms of substantive policy. It's all just slogans. It's just vibes, which is a term that South Africans love to say, that no solutions, just vibes. That's basically what the EFF is. Nothing but vibes. However, they are making ground in gaining support, and gaining voters, and gaining members, and gaining traction in South Africa. That is a clear sign that South Africans, especially young South Africans, are not clearly exercising their minds with regards to the issues at hand. Here's another example of why I'm saying that South Africans are not clearly exercising their minds with the issues facing the country. If you've been following the trends in South Africa in the past 5 years, you would have seen a movement of mostly young black South Africans with an online sort of call for Vusi Thembiwayo for president. Hashtag Vusi Thembiwayo, hashtag run for president already. Run, Vusi, run. If you run, I'll vote for you. I think if you don't know who Vusi Thembiwayo is, then I suppose you don't really follow the trends in South Africa. So if you don't know it, forget about it. But it's in every single video that Vusi Thembiwayo, for instance, will post on his YouTube channel, and then you go through the comments. One after another, young South Africans saying that he should run for president. Run, Vusi. In many other alternative online platforms, South Africans calling for Vusi Thembiwayo to run for president. And I would always wonder, why do they want this guy to run for president? What is it that he's offering? What do these young people know that I don't about Vusi, for them to say that he should run for president? By that I mean, what is his energy policy? What is his industrial policy? What is his job creation policy? What is his trade policy? What would his solution be for the trade imbalances between South Africa and China, which has killed millions of South African jobs? My guess would be that these young South Africans who are calling for him to run for president don't have any answers for these questions. Why? Because as far as I'm aware, Vusi has not shared in any platform what his policies are on these issues. But him not having shared anything with regards to policies that might lead to people reasonably saying someone should run for president result in a conclusion that South Africans are just all about vibes. They look at any South African that seems to be confident, eloquent, that seems to have something going for himself, and then they attach their hopes and dreams to that person, without giving any thought at all in terms of what does it really mean to be a president, what does it mean to govern, what does it mean to be a president to a country like South Africa that is failing. As long as you are eloquent, educated, have some private school English of some sort, South Africans are going to attach their hopes and dreams to you. So it's not just that, it's also because the fact that, for instance, the EFF, those are not necessarily the private school going kids, but they are radical. They are full of zeal, they are full of noise, they are youthful, they are bold. And therefore South Africans attach their hopes and dreams to them. But then when you inquire further with regards to policies, what policies exactly are these people that you are attaching your hopes and dreams towards offering? The answer is, what policies? And I'm assuming that if I were to ask September Wire's fans in terms of why do they want him to be president, even that question itself will offend them. It will offend them because what I've realized is that the overwhelming majority of people aren't cognitively there. And so when you're asking them thoughtful questions about things that matter, they get offended. They'll get offended, and then what will actually end up happening, you end up having ad hominem attacks like clever blacks, captured, house nigger, something like that. Because that is much more easier than having a more thoughtful, reasoned, coherent, concise response to important questions. There was also another same movement a few years ago with the former Chief Justice Mogoeng, and this movement was coming from young black South Africans who are Christians, who are saying, Chief Justice for President. And I've engaged many of these guys online with regards to why do you think that the Chief Justice should be president? What qualifies him to be president? And I'm assuming that why they would say Chief Justice Mogoeng for president is because they see him as a man of integrity. We have to juxtapose a man of integrity with the ANC's corruption. And therefore, then some people think that integrity alone is what you need. And I'm going to say, listen, integrity is important. Integrity is very important if someone's going to run for high office like president. But really, is that what we need? Is that all that we need? Okay, say that you are a man of integrity, that you would never steal from us, ever. It's guaranteed that you'll never steal from us. It's still haven't answered the question of, what are your policies? How are you planning to solve the real issues that are facing South Africa? Poverty, unemployment. So it's all of this for me that and also looking at in terms of how South Africans persist in voting for the ANC. I think that alone should be evidence for all of us to see that South Africans are not applying their minds when they are making their electoral choices. Because if they were applying their minds properly, they would have stopped voting for the ANC a long time ago. Recently, if I'm going back to the issue of the EFF, recently the EFF had a march or a protest, or whatever you want to call it, demonstration about the issue of load shedding, rolling blackouts in South Africa. Millions of South Africans participated in it, and millions more shared the support of it online. I watched the EFF's press conferences about this. I watched their president Julius Malema, their vice president Floyd Shivambu. It's like 2-hour press conference, and another one was like more than an hour long. And after watching all of that, I couldn't get anything in regards in terms of what exactly they're trying to achieve. What do they want? And how are they intending to achieve it? That's really what thoughtful South Africans should be asking themselves. That is what thoughtful South Africans should have been asking themselves with regards to that protest. What does the EFF want with this protest? And how are they planning to achieve it? More so, now that the protest has happened, And South Africa still has load shedding that is stage 6 or whatever, where you have like 6 hours of load shedding. The question is that what has this protest or this demonstration or this march or whatever achieved? These are questions that have to be asked by people who are thoughtful about their political choices. People who are applying their minds. Not to say that people who agree with me, but to say that apply your mind. Apply your mind beyond slogans. Apply your minds beyond the superficial. Apply your mind beyond the riff-raff. It will take more than slogans to solve the problems that are facing South Africa. It's very clear to me that South Africa is going to be a failed state, not just because of the ANC, but because the majority of the country is sleepwalking, and they are sleepwalking into disaster. It became clear to me a few years ago that South Africans do not make their political decisions based on policy, but that they make their decisions based on feelings, slogans, catchy one-liners. This is the extent that South Africans engage with political messaging. And people who engage at this level are not fit to properly engage with policy questions, to critically analyze them and evaluate them. One of the criteria that South Africans engage with politics and political choices and electoral choices is issues of race, age, gender, ability to make eloquent speeches, catchy one-liners. I recently witnessed a discussion in the WhatsApp group that I'm part of. This discussion was about a new political party that got launched in South Africa. And the engagement was very lively and heated and passionate. And I must say that this WhatsApp group that I'm part of, it's a group that is made up of very successful and accomplished individuals. Almost everyone in that group has at least a 4-year degree. More than 40% of the group has graduate degrees. These are very impressive people, successful, working in high-paying jobs in corporate South Africa, but not a single one of them, in discussing this new registered political party that was being discussed, asked anything about the policy of this party. Not a single one of them. I asked, what are their policies? My question was not answered. I asked again, what are their policies? My question was still not answered. But you know what was discussed? The logo of the political party. There was a long discussion about the logo. I'm telling you. Long discussion about, oh, this logo is nice, this logo is not nice, or whatever. It's insane, right? Absolutely insane. And I even said to them in the discussion in the group is that if this is the level to which issues of politics get discussed in a group that has people of this caliber, educated people, successful people, very accomplished people, I shudder at the thought in terms of why does the ordinary day-to-day average South African engage politics? Because if people that I have deep respect for, people who are very impressive, engage with political parties at that level, I shudder at the thought. At the level of, let's discuss the logo. That is the extent to which the discussion went. I shudder at the thought of of how does a normal, ordinary, day-to-day, blue-collar South African engages politics. So, just to bring context to my discussion about this, I have to take you back to the 20th century, early 20th century. Germany saw in the 1920s saw a rise of a party made of young, energetic, and spirited young men who later would be called the Nazi Party. Their leader was a very young man who was very eloquent, well-dressed, eloquent, could capture a crowd with such emotional pleas to the crowd that the crowd would be thrown into a frenzy. Oh, this young man had the advantage of identifying with the needs and the complaints of the German people. He also had the advantage of youth. He was only 44 years old when he became the Chancellor of Germany. 44 years old. I must point that out because South Africans also have this fixation about it. Oh, you know what? The reason why South Africa is fighting so much is because the ANC has old leaders. As if youth means competence, and old age means incompetence. This is at the level in which South Africans are discussing politics. Discussing politics to the point of saying, attributing failure to age and insinuating that if we had younger leaders, Adolf Hitler was 44 years old when he became Chancellor of Germany. 44 years old. And not far away from Germany, there was also another young, energetic radical who was mesmerizing Italy, garnered a large following, and rose to the top of Italian politics and became the Prime Minister of Italy at a young age of 39 years old. His name was Benito Mussolini, 39 years old. So much for the competence of youth. This has to be noted because these are the issues that South Africans are fixated with. They're fixated with these issues. They're fixated with age, race, gender, as if these issues mean anything when it comes to competence. As if these things mean anything when it comes to what is needed to bring the solutions that South Africa needs. You find long discussions on national television in South Africa talking about the age of leaders, political leaders, or talking about the gender of political leaders. South Africa needs to wake the hell up. South Africans, as I'm saying, are not applying their minds to the issues facing South Africa. They are sadly on the surface level, and South Africa bends. And someone might ask, what is it? Is it an education problem? No, it's not an education problem. It's not an education problem at all. Because if it was an education problem, San Francisco in the United States and California would not have been voting for their own suffering in the past 50 years. Election after election, San Francisco vote for the same policies that are destroying San Francisco. And you can't tell me that people of San Francisco are not educated. That would be a city with probably the highest number of educated people per capita. So education has nothing to do with it. There are just some deep problems that affect human beings where they get to a stage where they don't exercise their minds. I think for me, what I'm saying is that human beings are more likely to, when it comes to their political choices, to be passive, mindless participants until it's really bad. And some of it's a phenomenon, but it's called groupthink. which I'm not going to go into right now. And once groupthink captures a population to a certain critical mass level, it's very difficult for people to break out of it. And and regardless of how bad things become, people will generally follow headlong in groupthink.